They came for my car, but they had no idea who they were messing with. The low, guttural growl of an engine cut through the morning silence. Metal scraped against asphalt. Chains rattled. Something heavy lurched forward. Samantha Carter's eyes snapped open. She had been lounging on the couch, half lost in the pages of her book, when the sound jolted her senses. A slow, creeping unease settled over her as she placed her coffee mug down, brows furrowing. Something wasn't right. Pushing off the couch, she strode toward the window and peeled back the curtain. Her stomach dropped. A tow truck was sitting in her driveway. This hydraulic arm was already hooked under her car. What the hell? Adrenaline surged through her veins as she yanked the front door open, her pulse hammering in her ears. A man in a reflective vest stood next to the truck, scribbling something onto a clipboard like he had done this 100 times before. Samantha stepped forward, voice sharp. "Excuse me? What do you think you're doing?" The man didn't even flinch. He just smirked, lifting his pen without looking up. "HOA violation," he muttered. "Your car's coming with me." Oh, they had messed with the wrong woman. Samantha's grip tightened around the doorframe as a wave of irritation surged through her. HOA violation? That made no sense. Her car was parked neatly in her own driveway, exactly where it had been for the last 2 years without a problem. She took a step forward, squaring her shoulders. "There's no violation. My car is legally parked." Her voice was firm, but there was a sharp edge to it. The tow truck driver barely looked at her, his pen scratching against the clipboard. "Not my problem. HOA sent the order." Samantha's jaw clenched. The HOA. A slow, deliberate clap came from the side. She turned her head and felt her blood boil. Karen Thompson, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, standing on the sidewalk with her arms crossed, smug as ever. "Oh, Samantha," Karen drawled, shaking her head. "You really should keep up with the new regulations. We had a meeting last month." Samantha's eyes narrowed. "I wasn't informed of any meeting." Karen gave a sickly sweet smile. "Not my fault you don't check your emails." The tow truck's hydraulics hissed, the back wheels of Samantha's car lifting slightly. Her pulse spiked. No, hell no. She wasn't about to stand here and let them steal her car. This was war. Samantha planted herself between the tow truck and her car, arms crossed, stance unyielding. The cool morning breeze barely registered against the fire burning inside her. "You're not taking my car," she said, her voice sharp as glass. "It's legally parked. This is my driveway on my property." Karen sighed dramatically, flipping her platinum blonde hair over her shoulder. "Oh, Samantha, the HOA rules apply to everyone. Just because you think you're above them doesn't make it so." The tow truck driver looked between them, bored, as if this was just another routine pickup. The hydraulics let out a sharp hiss, a signal that he was ready to finish the job. Samantha stepped forward. "You're trespassing. I never approved this tow, and you have no legal grounds to remove my car." Karen's smirk widened. "Actually, per the new community guidelines, vehicles must be parked in garages overnight. Driveway parking is a violation." Samantha's stomach twisted. "That's ridiculous. I never agreed to that." Karen shrugged. "You should have read the fine print." The gall of this woman. The truck's winch groaned, the chains tightening. Samantha's hands balled into fists. Oh, they really thought they could bully her? They had no idea who they were dealing with. Samantha inhaled deeply, forcing herself to stay calm, even as her hands trembled with restrained fury. She couldn't lose control, not yet. That's exactly what Karen wanted. The tow truck's winch whined, pulling her car up another inch. Samantha took another step forward, her heart pounding. "You're making a mistake. This is my property. You have no right." Karen let out a mocking laugh, the sound grating against Samantha's nerves. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, shaking her head with pitying amusement. "You don't seem to understand how this works. The HOA isn't just me." She took a step closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "I have the full backing of Mr. Holloway, the HOA president himself." Samantha's stomach tightened. "Holloway? The man who ran the HOA like a personal empire, handing out violations like candy, squeezing homeowners for every last dime. Karen saw the flicker of recognition in Samantha's eyes and smirked. So, if you don't want more fines, penalties, and, oh, I don't know, a lien on your house, I'd suggest you step aside. The winch tightened. Samantha clenched her jaw. They were trying to corner her. Fine. Let them think they had the upper hand. They had power. She had something better. Plan. Samantha stood motionless, her fists clenched at her sides, watching as the tow truck rumbled away with a victorious Karen trailing behind, still grinning like a queen who had just conquered new land. They had won this round. But the game wasn't over. Samantha exhaled slowly, letting the frustration simmer into something sharper. Focused. She wasn't just going to fight back. She was going to expose them. She spent the rest of the afternoon quietly working, installing a hidden security camera overlooking her driveway. Nestled inside a decorative lantern near her garage, it had the perfect angle to capture everything, from the street to her property line. If the HOA tried this stunt again, they wouldn't just be caught. They'd be recorded in 4K. But that wasn't enough. She needed bait. That night, Samantha left her spare car parked exactly where the other had been, front and center in the driveway, a tempting target. Then, she waited. And just as she predicted, they came back. This time, she was ready. Samantha sat in her living room, eyes locked on the small screen of her laptop. The security feed from the hidden camera flickered in the dim glow of her lamp. Everything was set. Outside, her bait car sat parked in the exact same spot as before. An open challenge to the HOA. But this time, she wasn't just watching. She was waiting. She had rigged motion-activated alarms along the driveway, subtle enough that they wouldn't be noticed at first, but loud enough to send the trespassers into a panic once triggered. She smirked, imagining Karen's face when she realized she wasn't the one in control anymore. Then, right on cue, headlights pierced the darkness. Samantha's pulse quickened as the tow truck crawled down the street, slowing as it neared her house. The same driver from before, the same hulking mass of machinery. But this time, he wasn't alone. Karen stood beside the truck, clipboard in hand, smug as ever, arrogant, entitled, certain they'd win again. Samantha's fingers hovered over her phone screen, ready to trigger the alarms. Just a little closer, the truck rumbled into her driveway. The hydraulic arm hissed, reaching for her car. Now, Samantha tapped the button. A piercing alarm shrieked through the night. The driver jerked back in surprise. Karen let out a startled gasp, eyes darting around. Then a second alarm blared. They were caught. And Samantha? She sat back and smiled. Showtime. The tow truck lurched forward, its massive tires grinding against the pavement as it rolled into Samantha's driveway. They hadn't learned their lesson. Samantha's fingers tightened around her phone, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and adrenaline. From her concealed vantage point behind the curtains, she watched as the driver climbed out, completely unaware of what was coming. And then there was Karen. Smug, self-important, clipboard clutched in her manicured fingers as she strutted forward like she owned the entire neighborhood. Arrogance oozed from her every step. Let's get this over with, she sighed dramatically. She can whine all she wants. HOA rules are rules. The driver nodded, reaching for the control panel on the tow truck. The metal arm extended toward Samantha's car, the hydraulic system hissing like a snake, preparing to strike. Samantha could barely sit still. Almost there. Then the motion sensor tripped. A sharp beep cut through the night. The driver froze. Karen's head snapped up. What was that? Before either of them could react, the floodlights exploded to life. A deafening alarm blared through the driveway. Karen shrieked, spinning in a circle like a trapped animal. The driver stumbled backward, cursing under his breath. And then the final piece of the trap. From her phone, Samantha activated the speaker on her security system, her voice ringing loud and clear. Caught you. Smile for the cameras. Karen's face drained of color. Samantha grinned. Game over. The instant the alarms shrieked through the night, Chaos erupted in Samantha's driveway. The tow truck driver stumbled back, eyes wide, hands instinctively raised as if the house itself had come alive. Karen spun in circles, frantically searching for the source of the noise, her clipboard clattering onto the pavement. The floodlights bathed them in an unforgiving glow, making them perfectly visible to the hidden camera, recording every panicked movement in crystal-clear high definition. Samantha leaned forward, watching the live feed on her laptop with a satisfied smirk. Karen's voice cracked. "Turn that off. This is harassment." Samantha tapped her phone, activating the speaker again. "Harassment? Oh no, Karen. This is me protecting my property from you." The tow truck driver glared at Karen, clearly realizing he was on the wrong side of this mess. "You told me this was approved. I'm not getting caught up in this." Samantha let out a low chuckle. "Too late. It's all on camera. You just attempted to tow a legally parked vehicle on private property." Karen visibly paled. She opened her mouth, scrambling for any excuse, any justification. But she had nothing. And Samantha? She had everything. Undeniable proof. And now it was time to finish this. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the night, bathing the driveway in their relentless glare. The sound of the police siren, sharp and final, felt like the closing of a book, Karen's book. Samantha stood at the edge of her driveway, calm but charged with quiet triumph. Her phone, still connected to the security feed, rested in her hand like a loaded weapon. Beside her, Karen shifted nervously, her once smug demeanor crumbling with every passing second. The tow truck driver stood off to the side, arms crossed, scowling as if silently regretting ever taking this job. A police officer stepped out of the cruiser, stern and direct. "We received a report of trespassing and illegal vehicle towing. What's going on here?" Karen's voice wavered, but she tried to maintain her composure. "This is just an HOA enforcement. Nothing illegal here." Samantha cut her off, her tone cold and precise. "Actually, officer, here's the footage." She handed over her phone, the video playing in vivid detail. The tow truck entering her property, Karen orchestrating the entire thing, the alarms blaring, the panic in their eyes. The officer watched in silence, then nodded. "This car is legally parked on private property. HOA rules don't override property rights. This is trespassing." Karen's face drained of all color. "Wait. This isn't what it looks like. I was just—" The officer raised a hand, stopping her. "Ma'am, you're in violation of property laws. You and your organization are liable for damages and trespassing." Samantha smiled, not wide, not smug, just satisfied. "You thought you were untouchable, Karen. Guess not." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. The officer turned toward the tow truck driver. "Pack it up. Now." The driver didn't need to be told twice. As the truck rumbled away, Karen stood frozen, her world collapsing around her. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. And Samantha? She stood tall, victorious. She had fought back. She had won. And she had the receipts. The next morning, Samantha sat on her porch with a steaming cup of coffee, savoring the quiet victory. The neighborhood was abuzz. Whispers of last night's disaster spread like wildfire. And at the center of it all, Karen, the HOA's self-appointed queen, had been dethroned. The police had filed an official trespassing report, and Samantha had forwarded the security footage to her lawyer, just in case. The legal consequences for illegal towing and harassment were stacking up, and Karen was now under HOA board investigation. As expected, the community was furious. For years, Karen had ruled with an iron fist, hitting homeowners with bogus violations, outrageous fines, and ridiculous demands. But now the mask was ripped off, and the neighborhood saw her for what she truly was. A power-hungry bully who had finally met her match. By noon, a petition circulated demanding her removal from the HOA board. Samantha signed it with a satisfied smirk. And the cherry on top, Mr. Holloway, the HOA president, had gone silent. Samantha had a feeling he knew Karen had just turned the HOA into a legal nightmare. And now, She was nothing but a liability. By the end of the week, an HOA-wide email went out. Effective immediately, Karen Thompson has stepped down from her position as HOA enforcement officer. Samantha leaned back in her chair, watching Karen's defeated figure walk past her house. No more clipboard, no more smug grin. Just a woman who had lost everything because she pushed too far. Samantha raised her coffee mug in a silent toast. Checkmate. Samantha didn't expect much the morning after Karen's fall from grace. Maybe a little peace and quiet, a break from the petty HOA nonsense. But what she got instead? Support. A lot of it. It started with Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman from 2 houses down. She showed up at Samantha's doorstep, gripping her cane, her sharp eyes gleaming with approval. "I saw what you did," she said with a small nod. "And I just wanted to say, good for you. That woman has been on a power trip for years." Before Samantha could respond, more neighbors gathered, some standing on their porches, others walking over, each with their own version of the same story. Fines for leaving trash bins out 2 minutes too long. Threats over unsanctioned garden decorations. Letters about lawn colors, mailbox styles, and other ridiculous HOA infractions. Karen had been tormenting the entire neighborhood, but no one had fought back until now. A man from down the street, Mark, stepped forward, shaking Samantha's hand. "You took a stand when the rest of us didn't. We appreciate that." Samantha exhaled, a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying finally lifting. And then, the most shocking part, a formal email from the HOA board. To the residents of Willow Creek. After careful review of recent events, the board would like to issue a formal apology regarding the unauthorized towing attempt on private property. We recognize the need for fair enforcement of community guidelines and will be revising our policies to ensure homeowner rights are fully respected. Samantha nearly laughed out loud. An apology? From the HOA? Karen was gone, the community was rallying together, and the HOA was backpedaling so fast they might as well have put their bylaws in reverse. She leaned against her doorway, watching her neighbors mingle, vent, and share stories. For the first time in years, they weren't afraid of the HOA. Because now, they knew they could fight back. And it all started with one word. No. A week had passed since the fall of Karen Thompson, and for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt normal, peaceful, free. No more surprise violation notices. No more passive-aggressive emails. No more clipboard patrols. Samantha sat on her porch, a fresh cup of coffee in hand, legs stretched out as she enjoyed the golden morning sun. The sound of children laughing echoed down the street. Kids playing without fear of some ridiculous HOA complaint about noise levels. She took a slow sip, a small smirk forming as she scrolled through her phone. The neighborhood group chat was alive with celebration. Karen resigned. Never thought I'd see the day. We owe Samantha big time. Who knew standing up to the HOA was actually possible? Samantha chuckled. Damn right it was. Her gaze drifted across the street. Karen's house was eerily quiet. The woman had all but disappeared, her reign of terror officially over. Without power, without control, she was just another neighbor. And now no one cared what she had to say. Samantha leaned back in her chair, feeling lighter than she had in years. She had fought back, and won. The best part? She hadn't just stood up for herself. She had shown the entire neighborhood that they didn't have to live in fear. And as the sun warmed her skin, and the breeze carried the sound of life moving forward, Samantha allowed herself to do something she hadn't done in a long time. She relaxed. Finally, peace had been restored.